All right, guys, today we are going to be discussing Colorado versus Arizona. I had the opportunity to sit down with Patrick Sukup with the Living in Fort Collins, Colorado channel a few days ago. We did a couple videos. We wanted to do one on Colorado versus Arizona. We also wanted to break it down into Phoenix versus Denver. We're going to be doing the Colorado versus Arizona one here. Kind of focuses more on the entire state versus just kind of the metro areas. And so hopefully this can answer a few more questions for you. Make sure to check out Phoenix versus Denver if you haven't had a chance to do that as well. But if you're looking for a kind of a full state comparison, then make sure to stay tuned. What's up, everybody? It's Greg Corbett with the AZ Lifestyle Group right here in Phoenix, Arizona. If this is your first time to this channel and you're looking to find out everything you need to know about what it's like living in and or moving to the Phoenix metro area, including comparing Colorado versus Arizona, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you can be notified whenever we post a new video. We are helping people from all over when it comes to finding the best places and neighborhoods to live here, and we absolutely love it. So if you're even thinking about making a move and you need any assistance whatsoever, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, however you want to get a hold of us. We got your back when it comes to moving to the Phoenix Metro.
All righty, everybody. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me today. And today we've got a little bit of a throwdown between Colorado and Arizona. And with me is Greg Corbett, and his YouTube channel is Living in Phoenix, Arizona. So hopefully today we can provide you guys some value from just kind of our perspective from a local, what the different personalities are, culture, what it's like living here, maybe some cost of living, different things. If you guys haven't already, there's another video that we just did with Phoenix versus Denver. So definitely go check that out if you're on Greg's channel or mine. And between the two of these, hopefully they can kind of, between the two, give you a good overview of different options. I don't think either one of us could talk to you about maybe which one is better, but maybe there's just better suiting people better for different reasons. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Greg, appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, we like to do this, and I think it was a good idea to join together to kind of do this because there are so many different things that people can kind of factor in that it's like, hey, what's really the right choice for you? We can talk about the pros and cons all day, but it's really about, you guys who are watching and what might be a good fit for you. So we're going to try to answer those questions for you.
Absolutely. So for me, one of the first things that I kind of would like to talk about is kind of the type of person that's living there. So for us, we're in Fort Collins, Colorado. We're a college town, Colorado State University. Our median age is around like 29, 30 years old. But there's a lot of young families that move here. And that's kind of what a lot of people are, moving here to do, is to raise a family. What type of person or family or individual grouping is coming to Arizona on average? Like what's the dynamic like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I never really know like the stats. It feels like we get a little bit of everybody. I think we're very diverse. Arizona is known for being like a little bit of a retirement community to a certain extent, because you get like the snowbirds that come out, you get people that come out to retire that are done with the cold weather and that type of thing. But we also have a ton of young families, and we also have single professionals. We have a little bit of everything. There is something for everybody out here. So, as far as the full-on demographics, it's hard to say, but I talk to a little bit of everything. Yeah, and there's a lot of cool people reaching out. So it's fun to see all the people looking to make a move.
Now, with like the families, is Arizona more of a public school system, or do you see more people needing to put kids or their kids through a private school system for whatever reason?
Yeah, no. So I think the schools in Arizona get, if you look online and you look at, that's one of the things that has been, one of the challenges, I think, for a lot of people that are looking to make a move is if you start looking at the schools and the ratings, if you go online and start looking at school ratings, Arizona tends to rate pretty poorly. I think they're typically rated, in the bottom 10 of like of the 50 states when it comes to school ratings. Now, I don't know how fair that is. I mean, that's been going on since I moved to Arizona back in '93. Like Arizona's been known for that. But I graduated from in high school in Arizona, but I didn't really grow up in the system. And I haven't had any of my own kids go through the system yet. I've only friends and their kids who have gone through, and they all seem pretty sharp. I mean, maybe that's just compared to me, and I'm not that sharp, but I feel like for the people I talk to, our school system, it does okay. There's probably certain areas and regions that are a little bit challenging, but it's something that people need to know about because it's not one of the things that Arizona is known for as far as having highly rated schools. And I apologize, Patrick, you had mentioned like, people going to public or private. I'd say the majority of people are going to the public schools here. There are some good private options. There's also some good charter school options for people as well if people don't like the public schools.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting what you said because we had some clients in from Oregon and we were driving around. We were talking about different public school systems and their public school system in Oregon, and they weren't very happy with it. But then they kind of got back and kind of pulled back and they said, well, really, honestly, I think the biggest thing is like the home life. If you're just putting all of the pressure on the teachers to teach your kid everything, or are you being supportive and helping them with their homework or understanding different things? So I think public school systems can only be, I mean, yes, there's some phenomenal public school systems, don't get me wrong, but there can only be as strong as your support system at home. So I think it's just as important as how much support and subsequent education they're getting while they're at home. So, I don't.
And I'll bring this because I think this is an important point. I think where Arizona has been lacking has been the support of the public school teachers. And I don't think that Arizona has been known to be a well-paying state for the teachers, and that when you don't have the pay to go with the quality of the teachers, that tends to bring down some of the quality of what happens. So I think that's a part of it. I think they're trying to work on making changes to that finally. And as more people come into the state and have the money to say, hey, look, we need to take care of these teachers, I think there'll be some changes with that. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. If you go online and talk to people, I'm sure there's some people like absolutely fine with it, and there's some people like, nah, it needs work.
Yeah, well, I think my sister and her and my brother-in-law are both teachers in Greeley and live in Windsor, and they make good money together. They absolutely have to be a dual working household, but they also get to take the entire summers off with their kiddos now and go do all the sports and things of that nature. So definitely some trade-offs, but there was similar protest from teachers here in Colorado just over the last couple of years about pay and wanting to get that increase. So I think it's kind of a conversation across the world, especially, I don't know if you watched it today. Today there was, over the last 2 days, there was, and I'm not a huge football buff by any means, but, Lincoln Riley goes from University of Oklahoma to USC, and Brian Kelly goes from Notre Dame to LSU, and one's making $9.5 million a year. The other one's getting $10 million for 10 years. And so you see these coaches and college athletes, and you're like, man, like our fun, our dollars are being spent based off of our eyeballs and our time on our phones. Yeah. So I get it, but at the same time, shoot, pay those teachers.
But video on that, Patrick, but we won't go there. We won't go there because people want to hear about Arizona versus Colorado. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see some of the stuff that's happening.
Yeah, which, speaking about sports, professional teams, that's one thing that in Fort Collins, I talk about how we're close to Denver. We can go see the Avalanche, Rapids, Broncos. In Arizona are, I know you guys got the Coyotes. You guys got the Phoenix Suns that are doing really well. No, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, do you guys see a pretty supportive, is it a big deal where you guys are at, your professional sports teams?
Yeah. So when it comes to kind of the pro sports, it's interesting. So we're such a mix. Like Arizona is such a mix from people from all over the place, and especially with some of our teams, like the Cardinals, they're good this year, which is nice, but we still have a huge contingency of fans that are from all over. I mean, there's still a huge amount of Green Bay fans. There's a huge amount of Dallas fans. There's a huge amount of Chicago fans. I mean, just the Chicago contingency in our state, which is huge for like spring training and that type of thing. I mean, we get like a ton of different people who have their allegiances to their where they came from, and they bring it here. And honestly, like I think it's great. I think it's awesome to have it around here. I mean, sometimes when you're like rooting for the home team and half the stands are a different color, then I guess maybe that's an issue. But I think for people that live here that are rooting for other teams, it's kind of fun.
Well, sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, I've spent a fair amount of time down in Arizona and Scottsdale with like, there's Final Fours and,
Yeah.
big bowl games. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool time to go down there and get to be able to spend, like I said, Final Four during March. I mean, it's cold everywhere else, but it's gorgeous in Arizona. So, it makes sense that a lot of those events and venues get driven towards that Arizona area. Now, is that something that you see as like, is it more of a touristy area, or is it going to be more of kind of like a snowbird or, a primary occupied area that you see a lot of Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to me it has become a place where people stay and live here, and then we also have the tourist season as well. So we have all the people who live here year round who have said, "Hey, I want to make Arizona my home for a multitude of different reasons." But then you have we get our huge traffic season it's kind of starting in November and really taking off in January through March, with all the events that we have between the Waste Management Open, which is huge, the Barrett Jackson, spring training in March. I mean, that starts really in February now and goes all through March. The amount of people that come in just for spring training is ridiculous. So we have this huge amount of influx in traffic. Good if you like events and like fun things to do, bad if you don't like the traffic and all the people that kind of brings in. So it does bring in a lot of traffic that, like we talked about in our previous video, some of the traffic issues that we don't typically have during the year tend to start happening a lot more during that time.
Definitely. Yeah, we've got kind of an interesting our tourism seasons basically like our summer, like
Yep.
late spring, summer, early fall, which is actually, it kind of coincides nicely with our students leaving town, because our students are going to be leaving at the end of spring, coming back at the beginning of fall. So our traffic actually decreases pretty dramatically with those
Yeah.
30,000 kids that are, going off in all of their separate directions. But then all of the tourism starts to really come in. So it does, balance each other out pretty well. But yeah, Fort Collins, I never knew how much our economy depended upon its tourism, but it really is a big driver for us. It's a tourist attraction to come down in Old Town Square in Fort Collins and see what it's about.
Yeah. And go get a fat tire.
Yeah. Now, speaking about Fat Tire, I was just about to ask you now, is there any, we have a big brewery scene. It was
Yeah.
it was a green state for a while, one of the first green states in Colorado. But is there anything like that you see younger, not even younger, but like, young professional couples, young families that are a big driver of like, hey, this is what we do. We go out and walk the river, like in Austin, Texas. And down here it's go down and do a kind of a brewery tour. What do you kind of see as Arizona as like a fun leisurely thing to do for, anyone really?
Yeah, I mean, there it's same and different at the same time, because I think about areas like that. I think about Colorado, Fort Collins. And thinking about downtown Denver and kind of the scene down there. Our like downtown Phoenix scene is it's okay, it's cool. It has like some cool aspects to it, but I don't feel like it's as cool as some of the other downtown areas. There are other suburbs. I think Scottsdale is probably the biggest driver to a lot of the tourism and what happens in like Scottsdale as a town, just the size of it and everything that is going on in Scottsdale between Old Town and some of the stuff going on in North Scottsdale. That has a big draw to it as far as what people want to do. We have, different areas around town. If you want to go get out to like the canal system and go bike or jog to the canal, we got a lot of hiking places. So there's a lot of places. I'm right near Camelback Mountain, which is a huge destination for hikers. But those little mountain areas, it's not the Rockies, but it's a great place for people to go out and take hikes and get really cool views in. So That tends to be kind of the scene over here when people want to get out and about.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have thought about that, but it sounds like, I mean, especially during the time that people can't be hiking here in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, during our, well, we're going to ski, sure, but well, maybe they really like to go hiking, go out, trail hiking and trail running. So it sounds like that's something that you can do in Arizona pretty easily, and there's lots of options.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of options with that. I think the biggest thing that people have to keep in mind here is when you're going out, you just have to be a lot of people just go out and kind of start hiking and they're not prepared. And our biggest challenge is, especially during the summer here, is that people go out and they try to hike during the day. And if you go out after 10 a.m., if you're not prepared, you might not come back. And we have a lot of people who aren't prepared to come visit. And unfortunately, you know, get in situations where, they could potentially lose their lives.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's something similar here in Colorado. Is a lot of people go, rafting and tubing down the Pooter or down the rivers, but during the spring season, it is only, it's whitewater rafting, and they do not want you to, or suggest you go out and tube, because people literally lose their lives on an annual basis, even though it is very well marked and clearly, defined that do not tube during this time with the snow runoff. Those waters are extremely dangerous, and so it's something to where, you don't know unless you know, or hopefully
Right.
somebody that you're willing to go ask or watch one of these videos. So, man, I wouldn't even have thought about that. Is it something to where they go out and it gets so hot that they don't have the water, and they either aren't prepared physically, or it just doesn't matter if you're the most in shape person in the world, if you don't have the right, sunblock or shade or water? Is that what you're kind
Yeah,
of?
well, and that's what's funny. I think a lot of people they go out and they are in good shape and they're like, "Hey, I'm fine. I can deal with this. I don't need the water and I don't need the shade." And that sun gets you quick, and it doesn't take a long time. And if you just you hear about people just kind of maybe losing track of where they are, and then they get lost, and then they don't know where they're going, and then they find themselves in a situation where they're maybe their cell phone isn't working at the time or something like that, and then that's just a bad recipe. So similar to what you're talking about with the river and that type of thing, you just get people that maybe are overconfident in their abilities and be like, hey, I've seen this before, it looks like a lot of fun, everybody does this when they come visit, and I want to do that too. And I'm a pro, I can do it. And but you bring someone with you, whether you're here hiking in the summer or hiking anytime, or if you're in Colorado, going down those tubes on the river, make sure to have somebody with you who's experienced and a pro, so they can give you a few pointers.
So I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, because I was thinking about, so hiking, a big draw for Arizona if you're going there, which I didn't necessarily know about.
Yeah.
What would be two other things if somebody was coming to either visit, just to visit, or come to explore to buy? What would be two other things besides maybe go take some hikes with somebody who knows what they're doing, that might really show them what Arizona is all about?
Yeah, so this is where I think the Colorado versus Arizona makes sense, because when I'm talking to people about coming into Arizona, it's not just kind of the Phoenix metro area. There's so much more to Arizona that people should explore, because it's something that becomes a part of what you can do. And to me, there's a lot of northern Arizona towns that are worth looking at that are only 2 hours away. So we're 2 hours away from Sedona, which is one of the most magical places you'll ever go visit and go check out. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go there.
I'm not. No.
Just an amazing place. Does not look like Arizona at all. You just go in and there's red rocks everywhere, and it looks like a completely different place than Arizona altogether. You can also, you're 2 hours away from Flagstaff to me is very similar to Fort Collins. It's smaller than Fort Collins, population and size wise, but it has a very similar feel. Another college town that has just like a really cool downtown area. And just like it just feels cool. So a lot of people who are moving to Arizona, maybe they don't know about some of the northern Arizona spots that you can go to that are a 2 hour drive away. and just have a lot of cool history to them and have a lot of little fun stuff. So it's not only just kind of the day-to-day stuff that you have just hiking around like the Phoenix metro area, which isn't as green and beautiful as Colorado by any means at all. I mean, it's just a completely different aspect and environment than what you'd see in Colorado, but you're so close to getting up to the high country that has that similar feel if you want to break from the heat.
Yeah, it's interesting talking with people that, don't necessarily know Colorado or Fort Collins, and when they come in there, and I haven't had necessarily people think that Fort Collins is a ski town, but they definitely want to know how close the nearest ski hill is.
Yeah.
And you can go to,
What is a snowy range? I remember going to Snowy Range in Wyoming as a kid.
that's pretty close. Yeah, I would say you can go to, Adora, that's
Yep.
basically 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away.
Is that like close to Boulder?
Really close to Boulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Netherlands kind of area. And then, from there, yeah, it's kind of Keystone Breck that's 3 hours away, or Steamboat that's 3.5 hours away, which I talked to this dude at a CSU game, I don't even know, a couple months ago, who lives up, he has a house in Steamboat and a house here in Fort Collins. And he was talking to me about, I said, I don't care how fast you go from Fort Collins up the Pooter or through Laramie, it's going to take you at least 3 hours, more than likely 3.5 hours. And he's like, no, I've done it 2.5. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I was ripping through the roads. But from my perspective,
All right.
3.5 hours away, you're at some world-class skiing. So,
Yeah.
but it's something to, know that it's close. It's not here, but it's close by.
Yeah. Well, because like a lot of people like to have those getaways on weekends, and
Absolutely.
I know if I'm living in Colorado, that's something I would want to be able to have the chance to go do and get up and take the family up and just have like a cool different environment, that type of thing. We have the ability to be within 3.5 hours of a place called Rocky Point, Mexico, which it's basically once you get to the border of the Arizona-Mexico border, it's an hour drive to get down to like a cool little beach area, and a cool little beach town down there that we consider kind of our little Arizona beach.
Yeah.
And that's a great spot. It's much easier to get to than going to the beaches in California. The beaches are clean. The people down there are great. It's a little bit cheaper to go to than kind of dealing with California, that type of thing. So those little things are nice. Being close to we're an hour flight to Vegas. So there's little things too that is kind of like, hey, when you want to get out, and honestly, I like going to California too. And California is a 5 to 6 hour drive, no matter where you're going.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, those are things that I literally, Sedona, Flagstaff, and Rocky Point. Those are three things that I had not heard that, are really pretty close. That would be absolutely a fun getaway for the week.
We should do a video like all switching places, and we'll just like take like 2 weeks and we'll go live in each other's house for like 2 weeks.
Was that wife swap?
That would be fun.
Now, if there was one thing that you think would deter people from moving to Arizona, what would it be? And, for me in Colorado, I would say probably the biggest conversation that people are having that are probably why locals specifically are not necessarily moving out, but either can't afford here in Fort Collins, especially, down in Denver. There's not a place in Colorado that hasn't increased in prices pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
But I would say that's one of the determining factors that I've had with as many people that I've talked with on my channel is, does it make sense financially for them to move? And that's probably the biggest barrier that we need to overcome. And if it makes sense for them financially, they're going to, it's a no brainer, but
Yep.
If it does make sense for them financially, they're not moving here. That's kind of for me, Colorado. How about you in Arizona?
Yeah, I think I think both Colorado and Arizona are on the completely same page when it comes to that now, because we've had such an influx in people looking to move to both areas. And I would probably say the pricing is similar. It'd be interesting to try to compare, like, we talked about average home prices in the last video, be it, I think you were around the 530 mark, we're around the 515 mark for our metro area. And what does that get you? It'd be interesting to kind of compare, like, what does that 515 get you in a
Right.
house, and what does it look like, and what does your lifestyle look like with that 515 kind of price point? Because it would just, I would be like, oh, okay, well, here you get this and this and this, but it'd be fun to see what you guys would get with that.
Sure. Well, interesting as far as Colorado, since this is a Colorado versus Arizona.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it was today actually that came out. There was an article that came out. So in Fort Collins, we're about $230 to $240 per square foot on a median price per square foot. Well, in a town of 7,000 people, in Aspen, Colorado, $2,500 per foot in Aspen, Colorado. It's the most expensive place in the country on a per foot basis. If my dad gave me this information, I did not confirm this information, but $2,500 per foot, 10 times the amount. It's an average purchase price of $11 million in Aspen. Average.
Crazy.
I'm just like, now granted, there was only 100 and some odd houses that sold over the last year in Aspen. So one $100 million house will spike that average a little bit, but shoot, you're not getting that here. Yeah. Here in Fort Collins, we're about $230 to $240 a square foot. So a little bit more expensive.
Every time I think of Aspen, I just think of Dumb and Dumber.
I know. So. What's it called? Samsonite.
Yeah.
Well, man, honestly, I really liked doing this, video with you on a Colorado versus Arizona, because like we just talked about, these are two heavily desirable places where people can now remote work. They're moving from all over the country, relocating for one reason or another. Seemingly Arizona, Fort Collins, Arizona, Colorado, this kind of mid, Idaho, Utah, all of these states in this area have been extremely desirable to move, and I think a lot of people are getting their information from YouTube and having a comparable side by side, not necessarily saying one's better than the other, but just here's one thing you can expect in Colorado versus here's one thing that you can expect in Arizona. Could really be helpful to somebody considering both options.
Yeah, I think so. And let us know. For you guys that are out there watching, we want to hear from you. Like, leave us a comment. If you're leaning in one direction or the other, leave us a comment. Tell us what you're looking for and why. I mean, I think that would be helpful. So we can, I think for both Patrick and myself, we look to you guys for what some of the decisions you're making, and take some of those ideas and be like, hey, by the way, we talked to this person, and find some commonalities, and then kind of communicate it to anybody who's looking, because there might be certain things that people tell us that we can pass along that might be important to you. So let us know your thoughts, because I think it'll be very helpful for not only us to learn, but for us to pass along.
Absolutely. No, it was great talking with you, Greg. And honestly, it'll give me an excuse to come down and visit Arizona and get to know it from your side of things.
Yeah, no, 100%. You got to come down. We'll try to come up there as well. To me, you can't go wrong in either spot, but definitely you guys reach out to us so we can help answer any of your questions at all. And, Patrick, let's try to come up with some new ideas. We'll do some more videos soon.
Heck yeah. Well, I appreciate you, buddy.
All right. You guys have a good one. We'll catch you on the next video.
See ya.